All right, we are back to talk about the Whoop 5.0 or MG in this case. Again, if you missed it, I posted an initial review of the Whoop MG about a month ago where I talk about all the features and specs and the pricing and all the things. If you want to learn every nitty-gritty detail about the Whoop 5.0 or MG, go watch that video. In this video, what we're going to cover is my experience with this device over the past month, because you need to wear this for an extended period of time in order to get all of your health data unlocked, and I have, and I want to go through that today. Now, if you're unfamiliar with Whoop and what it is, it's a simple band that you essentially wear on your wrist, or in my case, the bicep. We'll talk more on that in a second. And it collects all of your health and wellness data, things like your sleep tracking, your strain, your recovery, and a lot more. And these devices are pretty unique because unlike a Garmin or an Apple Watch or something like that, these are subscription based. So basically when you buy the device, you're paying for a subscription, you sort of get the device for free, and then you have an ongoing subscription basically forever as long as you want to use it. And like I said, if you want to learn about the subscription and the pricing, go check out my first video on this. Just know pricing has gone up, and the life subscription with the Whoop MG I have here costs about $359 a year, which is not inexpensive, but it does provide some interesting data, which we will look at in this video today. Oh yeah, and by the way, I did buy this with my own hard-earned money. They didn't send me this for free, anything like that, but I do have a link in the description down below if you're interested in picking up a Whoop band. That'll give you a discount when you purchase one, so go check that out if you're interested. Okay, moving right along to the first topic, and it will be comfort of the new Whoop 5.0 or MG. They're both basically the same form factor. These devices are incredibly comfortable. I've been wearing the Whoop MG for a month. I've been wearing it on my wrist for a while, but I ended up actually moving it up to my bicep. That's the band I have on here now, and I find it to be incredibly comfortable on the bicep. In fact, when I put it on here, I can put it high enough where it goes under my shirt and I don't look like a crazy person wearing multiple devices, even though I have 2 smart rings and a watch on now. It's kind of hidden under the shirt and it's just there. And throughout the day, I barely notice it's there. So I really prefer having it up here than down on the wrist, though you can wear it on the wrist as well. Included with the purchase of your band, you do get a wristband, which is what I have here. It does have a little clasp mechanism on it, and it's equally as comfortable on the wrist. A quick side note about this bicep band though, at the time of filming this video, there really aren't any third-party options available like on Amazon for cheap money. So I bought this one directly from Whoop, and unfortunately it was $50, which I guess the price was worth it for the added comfort, but just keep that in mind, it's pretty expensive. I do suspect that third parties will start producing these and they'll be on Amazon in the near future, but for now, this is the only one you can get. Okay, next topic, let's talk about the battery life of the Whoop MG or 5.0. The new 5.0 models come with 14 days of claimed battery life, and that actually got me pretty excited because if you remember, the Whoop 4.0, the older model, only got like 4 or 5 days, if you're lucky, on a charge. This new model now gets about 2 weeks of use, and I can say confidently in my use so far, I am getting about that 14 days of claimed use. However, there is one variable. If you do use the Whoop band as a heart rate sensor to pair to your phone or even a watch like this, which you can do in the settings in the app, it does degrade the battery a little bit quicker. The next thing I want to mention in this video is the auto activity recognition with the Whoop Band 5.0 or MG. I've been actually pretty impressed by this. So if you just wear the Whoop Band and you go for a run or you do a strength training workout or ride a bike or something like that, it'll actually detect that and mark that as an activity in the Whoop app on your phone. And a lot of devices do this, like Garmin has this. They all sort of do the same thing, but I gotta say, the accuracy at which the Whoop can detect an activity is really impressive. If I take a brief walk or I go outside for a little bit and do something, it will pick that up and mark it as activity for me to confirm later. And as one example of that, you can see my run from yesterday here. Running was 13.3 on the strain scale. And if I click in on that, I get all the details about this particular activity, even including my step count for that particular run. One thing though is you will notice that there's no like map view of the activity when I went on this run, and that's because I didn't start a manual activity. So if you start a manual activity on the phone in the Whoop app and then go for your run, it'll actually record GPS data using your phone's GPS inside of the phone and not from the Whoop band because there's no GPS in here. But if you just go for a run and don't start a manual activity, it'll still record it, just no GPS data. Let's jump back to the home screen here though and go through some of my core metrics from the past few days, just so you can get a feel of what this thing's actually recording. So up the top here, you get all of your vital pieces of information. That is your sleep data, your recovery, and your strain. So sleep represents your previous night of sleep, your recovery is your recovery from the previous day, and your strain is how active you were on a given day. Now for me, I've basically been in the office working all morning, so my strain score is still pretty low. I will go for a run after this and then it will go up. Now below that, we do have a couple of things. First of all, the health monitor, which gives you an idea of all of your vitals from your previous night of sleep, your respiratory rate, your blood oxygen, your resting heart rate, HRV, and skin temperature. And these will turn red if there's any particular piece of information that you need to pay attention to. Jumping back to the home screen, we can jump over to the stress monitor. And the stress monitor will give you real-time stress throughout the day while you're wearing the Whoop band. As you can see, mine is relatively okay right now. I just took it off. It's a little bit elevated, but that's because I'm recording a video. But if you look at this little graph here, you can see there's a little moon icon, and that indicates the stress while sleeping, which was pretty low compared to my previous day where I was at my kid's baseball game and I did a run earlier in the day. So there was a lot going on. So the stress was kind of all over the place. Scrolling down, we've got my sleep from the previous night. And if I click in on that, of course, you get all of your details about your sleep. Down below that is one of my favorite features about Whoop, and it gives you a suggestion on what time you should go to sleep and what time you should wake up to get the most out of your sleep based on your current recovery score. Scrolling down further, we've got my stress monitor, and then down at the bottom here, we have this really awesome graph. I love this graph on Whoop. It shows your strain, recovery, and sleep based on previous days and how they compare. So the goal here is to get these high numbers that are green to be green across the board and not fluctuate like they are on mine. Where you can see on this night, I got a really bad night of sleep, or I worked out really hard because my strain was really high, and I got 40% for my recovery score there. But if we jump over to Wednesday, which was yesterday, you can see that my recovery score was like in the tank. 3% is super low. That's actually an anomaly because last night when I slept, my bicep band actually rolled over and the heart rate sensor was not on my skin, which can happen from time to time. The band is generally pretty secure, but on this night it rolled over, so it kind of screwed up my metrics, so just ignore that. Another feature I've been really surprised by with the Whoop band is the VO2 Max Estimation. Now the VO2 Max Estimation is available on all Whoop models, including the cheapest option, and it starts trending over time after you wear the Whoop band for a couple of weeks. Now a while back, I actually went to a highly ranked sports fitness lab to get tested for VO2 Max, and that resulted in a VO2 Max of 57 at that time. And I understand it changes a little bit over time. However, with the Whoop band, it's been trending in the exact same direction. It fluctuates between 56, 57. On a couple of days, I got 58, and it seems right in line with the lab test. So that's one feature that seems surprisingly accurate. So that's the dashboard. I went through that quickly, just giving you an idea on how it works. But now let's jump over to the health tab here, because there's some really interesting stuff in here. So right at the top here, we have heart rate, and that'll show my real-time heart rate when I'm wearing the Whoop band. Right now it's off my body, so it's blank. Below that, we have something called health span. So health span compares your physiological age based on several factors to your chronological age, like your real age, and gives you insights on what habits are making your body age slower or faster than others. So as you can see here, my health span is telling me I'm roughly 34 years old. I am actually 40 years old, so I'm a little bit younger when it comes to the Whoop health span. And if I dive into this, you can see more details on my health span. For example, my pace of aging is 0.9 times my actual age. And then scrolling down, you get all the factors that roll up into this health span feature. So you can see here, my sleep consistency is average. I have 4 kids, I run a lot. It all adds up to average sleep. You've got hours of sleep, time and heart rate zones, strength training activities, which admittedly I have to do more of. That's why that's adding to my health span. If I did more strength, it would reduce my health span. Below that, we have my step count. So I got 17,000 steps average per day, and that's reducing my age by 0.7. Scrolling down further, we have my VO2 Max, which is currently averaged at 56, which is reducing my rate of aging considerably there by 4.6 years. Then we have my resting heart rate, which is kind of average here. I don't know why, because my other devices show a lower resting heart rate. So you can see here on this graph that I am 40.9 years old because my birthday is a couple weeks away, and my rate of aging is 34.6. And all the way down at the bottom here, we do have my pace of aging trend, which shows a little graph moving down, and that's the direction you want it to go in. If I was doing anything to degrade my aging, it would go back up. So that's the health span. Now it's moved down to another metric, which is blood pressure insights. And this one was very interesting. I only had a couple of days of use with this on my first video, so now I have a lot more data to look at. So blood pressure insights is really unique in that when you set this up initially, I showed in my first video, you have to actually use a medical grade blood pressure cuff on your arm to establish a baseline where the Whoop MG can sort of take over and estimate your blood pressure every day when you wake up. And again, the blood pressure insight is a unique feature to the Whoop Life subscription, which is the most expensive subscription, obviously, and that unlocks this feature. If you go for the cheaper subscription, you won't see this available. Now, if I dive in here, you're gonna see my estimated blood pressure for today, which is 117/83. And below that is a graph of all of the previous days leading up to today and how they fluctuated on a daily basis. So to test this feature out, I've been taking random measurements of my blood pressure on a given morning and comparing it to the insights I'm getting here in the Whoop app. And I gotta say, my blood pressure monitor cuff that is medical grade is showing more stabilized blood pressure like day to day, where it's closer to 120/80 where you want to be, where the Whoop insights are always a little bit off, although they sort of trend in the same direction. So I don't know if that's just me and the way I set this up and the calibration process, or if the Whoop estimations are a little bit off, because this band doesn't have like an inflating piece or anything like that. So they're really gathering all this data just from the built-in optical sensors on the back of the Whoop band, which is really impressive. A quick note though is that blood pressure insights is in beta. You can see right at the top of the screen there, it says beta, so take that with a grain of salt. It might get better over time. Okay, jumping down to Heart Screener. This is another unique feature to the Whoop MG or Whoop Life subscription, where you can use the Whoop band as an ECG sensor or electrocardiogram. You basically put two fingers on the sides of the band while wearing it, and will pick up your electrical signals from your heart to get a more accurate read and try to pick up things like AFib or irregular heart rate. If we dive in here, you're going to see my previous ECG reading, which was 3 days ago, and it gives me a little breakdown on all of the metrics from that reading. I've got no AFib detected, high heart rate is not detected, low heart rate not detected, and normal sinus rhythm. And below that, you can click on this little graph here and get an actual visual of your sinus rhythm to see if you have any irregularities. Within this menu, you can also dive into your ECG reports, and you can generate a PDF file that you can send to your doctor if you wanted them to take a look at it for further analysis. So that's just a quick run through of the metrics I've collected so far with my Whoop MG and Life subscription. Now I want to get to the point of this video and talk about whether or not the Life subscription with the Whoop MG is worth it compared to the Whoop 5.0. So I mentioned before, the Whoop MG and Life subscription is $359 a year. That is a lot of money, and at that price, you could go and buy a new Apple Watch every year, you could buy a Garmin every year, instead of a band with no display, that doesn't give you the time of day, doesn't record GPS activities, nothing like that. So why would you go for the Whoop band over something like that? And I guess the answer to that question is, I probably wouldn't. The Whoop Life membership seems to be a little bit overpriced for the features you're getting. Now, even though I just said that the Whoop MG and Life subscription are very expensive and they may not be worth it for most people out there, I still think that the Whoop 5.0, the lower option, the mid-tier option, is still an okay value. The metrics I'm getting here are very sensitive. You get things like if you drink a single glass of wine or a single beer on a given night, you're gonna see that reflected in all of your metrics the next day. It really picks things up, and they seem fairly accurate and reliable. And during my time using the Whoop MG, I would say even more reliable in some cases compared to the other devices I test. Now, to jump back to the Life subscription and the Whoop MG in general when it comes to the price, it's overpriced. I think the best value in the Whoop lineup is really the middle of the road peak subscription, which is $239 per year. You still get almost everything that the Whoop Life subscription has to offer. You still get the wireless charging puck, you still get all of the metrics that I just showed you, with the exception of heart rate insights, ECG. And to be honest, when it comes to those metrics, I'm not putting a lot of weight in those anyways. The ECG thing I've only used a couple of times. It's not something I want to do every single day. The blood pressure insights are interesting, but I'm not sure how much weight to put in them. And then the health span aging thing is really interesting, the data you get from that. But is it something that really makes a difference? Does it provide actionable insights for you to go out and try to age slower? And if we look at the cheapest option, which is the one subscription, that's still $199, which is only $39 less than the peak subscription, which gets you the wireless charger and a few more metrics. And I think the trade-off there is worth it. In either case, that's just my quick take on the Whoop MG after using it for over a month now and what I think about it and the metrics I'm getting from it. Hopefully you found this video useful, and if you did, make sure to drop down and give me a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel down below so you don't miss more videos from me in the future. Check out that link in the description down below, which will give you a discount on your Whoop device, whether or not it's the MG or the cheaper options. And after you do that, as always, check out all of the links in the description down below to my Strava, my Instagram, my merch store, where you can pick up a sweet t-shirt like this, and my podcast. Check that out too. Okay, friends, that's the end of this video. Just a quick one to follow up on the last one. Hopefully you found it helpful, and I'll see you in the next one. Okay, bye.
Too trippy, get it cracking like 11. I'ma show 'em